Hey guys, how's it going? I am excited for today's project. So we're here in the studio. I've got 16 of the most beautiful Lonicera to repot and prune. This is a variety called Lemon Beauty. Gorgeous variegation. Look at this, the green with the yellow. And these are a zone 7, so they have been in a greenhouse up to this point. So we have this one here. There's a few here, and a whole mess of them down here on the floor. Now, some of them have really pretty pink color, and I think that that was brought out when we had the door come open on the greenhouse and it got really cold in there. So I think some of them maybe just got a little bit stressed, and that's why they've got the beautiful pink. But they are an evergreen to semi-evergreen shrub. When a tag says that they're a semi-evergreen, I always assume that they're a semi-evergreen in the lower end of the zone range. So they are hardy down to zone 7, 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So in that sort of climate, I'm guessing that they probably defoliate or partially defoliate and then push new leaves in the spring. And then on the higher end of the zone range, which I don't know, this tag doesn't even say, let me look it up, zone 9. So they probably keep more of their leaves on the higher end of that zone range, but they grow about 3 by 3. I've seen some sources say they can grow upwards of 6 feet tall, and I have no experience with being able to grow them outside in the garden in the ground. And that's probably where you will see them get bigger. But what we're gonna do today is we are going to start training these into topiary forms, because these are supposedly really great for that, for clipped hedges and things like that. So I thought it would be fun to get them started. Now, usually the preferred time to prune is spring through fall. But since we're keeping them in the greenhouse and they're going to be protected from any kind of severe weather, and they'll be, you know, kind of warm in there actually, I'm thinking that it would be fun to get that started now. We're going to repot them into larger containers. So maybe you can see the terracotta pots. I've got in stacks right there. Anyway, I'm really excited for it. By the end of today, you're going to be like kind of questioning me because they're going to look pretty scrawny, but that's kind of how it starts. When you start with a young plant and you're starting to train them into something, and you can do this with anything. It doesn't have to be with an evergreen, but it can be. It can be with a hydrangea or, you know, Rosa Sharon. You can buy them that way, you know, like in lollipop form, or you can start with a baby plant and you can start training them. So let's look at this one really quick. I think this is a pretty good example. I think each one of these though is going to take a little bit of a different look, you know, based on how the growth habit's going already. But like this one has a really strong branch here that's got a lot of lateral branching coming out. So if we can train that one more straight and maybe train it into a lollipop and then take the rest of this and mound it at the bottom, or we could remove it all the way and make it a single trunk. I think, yeah, we'll have to just get into it and see what happens. And then there are a few that don't have that really strong branch in the center. I'm expecting these to lose a lot of leaves today. We'll probably keep this more in a circle form and just keep it like a sphere. But I think that these are gonna be fun. Although scrawny today, it's gonna be fun to watch the progression. I did bring in my potting tray just to kind of hold in some of the mess. I started to pour soil out, and then I thought I would show you what I'm using first before I get that done. So we've got the Espoma Organic potting mix. I'm gonna pour all of it into this tray, and then I'm gonna put some of the Biotone starter fertilizer in with that. And then I've got some bamboo stakes here. These are 3-foot size. We'll probably have to trim them down a bit. And then I brought home several types of ties, but I think I'm gonna use this. I love this stuff. This is Original Soft Tie Hacksnicks is the brand. Anyway, it's rubber coated wire. So you can cut off however much you need, and then it's super easy to manipulate. And I like that it's a muted, understated color, not like bright green. I mean, I brought this one home too, but that's kind of an obnoxious color. In a way, we can use this out in the dahlias next year. So here's my hope for today. I want to get them all potted up and the pruning process started. We're going to move them back out to the greenhouse. We'll get them all watered in out there. And I'm hoping in the spring they can kind of just take off and they'll already have kind of their new form started. And we'll keep an eye on them, keep them clipped through the spring and summer months. Maybe by next fall, we'll have a little bit more of a full specimen to look at. It kind of depends on how they take and how much new growth they're going to want to put on this next year. But I'm hoping in the end, I mean, I've got 16 of these. They would make for some really fun gifts, I think. Or we could even put together a display area here and display all the different topiaries that we come up with. But I'm thinking today I'll probably end up with mostly spheres. And you know, after we've cut it down into a sphere form and let it sort of bush out a little bit more, then we can take it in different directions. You know, we can maybe make some little birds and things like that, but we kind of need to start somewhere. So this is just going to be a bit of a process. I think I'll take this first one slow so you can kind of see my thought process as I kind of tackle it. And then we're just going to kind of bust through the rest of them. Fun project for today. First, we need to mix the fertilizer in with the soil. I'm not used to working behind this potting tray, but I got to thinking about the fact that this is pretty high back here and it would be a little hard for you to see. So we're gonna try to make it happen here. So some biotone and mix. Oh my, this is a little more soil than I kind of pictured in my mind. That's okay, we'll make it work. You know, I probably should have, I've got tags on the sides of all these pots. I know it's probably easier for the manufacturer to tag everything on the side because they're all stacked up, but boy, I wish they tagged them on the bottom, because then we're always left with that. There's probably a way to get rid of that little residual, but anyway. Okay, I'm gonna make a little hole here. We're gonna put some soil in the bottom of this pot. You know what I might do? Let's slide this plant out of its container, and we'll use the container as like a guide here inside the terracotta. Yeah, look at how heavily rooted that plant is. Like, they need to get out of these pots. So I'm happy to be doing this project today. So we're gonna use this. We're gonna set it right inside this terracotta pot like this, and we're gonna pack soil all the way around it. That way we can lift this out and introduce the root ball without having to pack a whole bunch of soil in around it. Okay, I'm gonna try to make sure I maintain a decent lip here. So that's the distance between the top of the soil surface and the top of the pot, because one, I wanna have room to top dress these. I probably won't top dress them right away. I wanna gauge how long I can go between waterings, and to do that, it's easier to see the soil. But I also wanna make sure that I can introduce water to this container, not have it sub and go over the sides, because that can make a huge mess. Okay, so check this out. Let's pull this. Look at that perfect little hole in there. I'm gonna dig out just a little bit more from the bottom because I think I put the pot up just a little too high. And then we are ready. So I do want to manipulate this root ball because it's so rooted like this. I'm gonna use my clippers. I've got my Felcos here, and I'm just gonna cut the roots in a few different locations here and kind of help spread them out a little bit. Boy, you just don't realize how quickly some things fill in their containers. And some things will thrive in that sort of condition, and some things don't love it. So I think this plant will have a new lease on life after today. I don't worry too much about the ones on the outside. I mean, I'll scratch them up a little bit. I'm more worried about just getting them loose down here at the bottom. Just breaking that root memory. Okay, down in the pot. Look at that, so easy. Now I did plant this at a slight tip because this is the branch we want to try to train upwards like that. So if I can kind of give it a little helping hand right from the beginning, that's perfect. Okay, I'm gonna move the potting tray out of our way while we prune this. First thing I wanna do is put a stake in this container so we can get this one starting to train upwards. So I'm just gonna push it in right back behind that main stem. Let me just turn it around so you can see that. Perfect. I'm not sure if you can see it, it might be out of the frame, but I'm gonna trim off about 4 inches of the top of the stake because it's unnecessary. Might end up even trimming more of that off. Okay, now a little piece of our soft tie here, and you can use your Felcos for that. They have a little notch at the bottom for cutting wire. So nice. Just gonna take this and gently, not too tight, just gently stake that branch to this. Now I gotta make sure it's straight. Maybe I should stand back. That looks straight to you? Yes? Okay, one more piece of soft tie here. Okay, now what I wanna do is kind of take the rest of this growth and trim it down a bit. Let's see the front there. I'm cutting right above sets of leaves here. And I'm gonna be a little bit careful. I'll be able to cut more off if I need to, but I sure don't wanna cut too much. And when you trim plants like this, evergreens and most plants, it encourages more thicker branching. Instead of just continuing to go straight, what usually happens is they'll produce new branches above the cut. That's what we want. Okay, I kind of want to assess here. I think I'm going to take this one down more, and I'm going to cut a little bit of this middle stuff out right here, all the way to the main stem. Yep, I'm going to take this branch, the leader branch, down to here. So we're going to encourage this to be its own sphere up here, and we're going to encourage these to be their own sphere down here. Even on the branches too, I'm not sure if you can see this, but like some of the branches, like I said, have been defoliating a little bit, but there's bright green buds on there. So I think that those will start pushing new growth. Everything's still alive. Interesting on those semi-evergreen plants. Okay, I'm gonna flip it around so I can see the front. Yep, I need to do a lot more shaping up here. I'm gonna look at it from all different directions. Okay, I'm gonna take the stake out for just a second to see if I can push this main branch over just a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. All right, so I know that that looks incredibly severe and the plant looks kind of puny at this moment, but this is where a topiary begins. So you can kind of see the general direction I'm taking this one. So this will be a nice sphere at the bottom. It will grow and fill in all the way around. Like right now it will be kind of empty on some sides. And then this one as well will fill in up here, and we can kind of manipulate the stake if we need to. And we can also remove the stake at some point if it looks like it's getting in the way of some branching. But you just kind of want the wood to harden in the direction you want it to go. So staking for a short time, especially on a topiary like this, is really important. So you can check, like every few months, you can take a stake out to like maybe every 6 months and see if the wood has hardened enough for it to stand up on its own. But I think this is a really good step in the direction I want to take these. So that's how I'm going to approach every single one of these. And like I said, they'll be different. We'll have some that will just be nice spheres and they'll look a lot better than this one today. But it will be a process. It'll be a fun one to show you too throughout the seasons how they do. Okay, we've got 15 more of these to do. All 16 of them repotted and pruned. I'm really happy with how they turned out. I haven't taken them out to the greenhouse yet. I want to show you what they look like here on the floor. But with the trimmings, with all of the stuff I trimmed off of them, I used pretty much every bit of that to make a wreath. And it's kind of a kitchen sink wreath. I used some dried elements I had in here left over from other projects. In fact, They are right here. So let's take a look at all of it. First off, here's our collection. Oh, they were so wild before. And even though they're fairly sparse in their new form, I think it's a really good start. So these 6 right here didn't really have really strong branching like some of these others did. I mean, a couple of them maybe had some branches that were a little bit thicker, but like this one here, this branch was thick, but it's attached really high to another network of branches. So I figured that these would be best to try to keep in sphere form, and then maybe we can shape them into something else later. I did one kind of a wild topiary here. So there are what? 1, 2, 3, 7 stems kind of going every direction, and we will leave the stakes, like I said, on them until they harden enough, but hopefully we'll get some spheres on the end of each one of these branches. I think that would look really cool. And then these over here, all double ball topiaries, hopefully in the end. But you can really see the form start to take shape. I love the shape of these 2 pots so much. And if I would have had access to all of them being in that shape, kind of just that taller shape, I would have done that. All the rest of them are in just kind of standard shaped pots there. Those back 3, those are the first 3 that I did right there. This one, I'm gonna try to do a cone, kind of like a triangle on the top with the circle at the bottom, and then these 2 will do circles on the top and the bottom. And then you can see the pink hued versions right there. And then this one had quite a few dead leaves on it. This one did too, like the leaves were dried up and kind of falling off, but the branches still have buds on them, green buds, and they're pliable, have green growth underneath. So I think we're gonna be okay. Looks like I forgot to attach this one. I need to do that. But as you get in close, you can see how that soft tie works. It's really nice. And honestly, in most cases, it kind of just disappears. You don't really notice it. I mean, you notice it if you look hard enough, but it doesn't scream at you like it would if it was bright green. It screams at you in this one for sure. You're like, what are those brown things? But soon we won't have to have these on the branches. So I'm really happy with that. I'm gonna move them to the greenhouse here in a minute and water them in, but that's pretty much it for the topiaries. And here's the wreath. I think it turned out really quite pretty. I mean, I ran out of branches. Let's see, I started it here, ran out of branches about here. So I had like this big empty gap, and I happened to have some birch branches. In fact, there's a big one right here. And then I had a little pile on the floor, and I had pine cones. I had some echinacea and sedum from our terracotta gift basket video still sitting here. And then I had just some little short tips that wouldn't have worked to bundle and attach to the wreath form, but they were easy to individually bundle and hot glue down to the base of the wreath form. And after I attached some of the bigger branches, I then wove in some smaller ones and tried to bring some of the branch detail over to this side, and I popped a couple of red twigs in there just so that it was sort of balanced, but not balanced at the same time. I kind of love it. Worked in a few noble fir tips too, because I just didn't have enough bulk right there. It's just a very fun, wintry looking wreath. The care going forward on these topiaries is gonna be pretty simple. I'm just gonna make sure that they stay moist-ish. I mean, I want them to be like slightly damp, but not too wet, and I don't want them to dry completely out, given the fact that I actually cut the roots off the bottom of most of them because it was easier than trying to pry them apart with my fingers. So anyway, we did add the Biotone starter fertilizer in there just to give them a good start. Even though the roots aren't working as fast as they do when they're actively growing, there's still activity. It's like outside. There's still activity going on underneath the soil surface. It's just a lot slower. And because it's so much cooler at the moment, I don't think we'll have to water them all that much. So there'll still be Biotone in the soil when the plants start actively growing in the spring. It's kind of nice that it's already worked in. And then we will get them on a regular kind of schedule for Plantone probably is what we'll give them. For outdoor plants like shrubs in containers, I think the easiest way to fertilize them, because we're not fertilizing them like we do annuals, they're not going to need or want weekly fertilizer. We'll probably do like a monthly application of the Plantone and just sprinkle that granulated stuff around the perimeter of the pot and then just water it in. It's really quite easy. And that is it for today's video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I was so excited about it. I don't know why. I feel like I used to do stuff like this all the time when I was down at the garden center because, you know, we always had a handful of plants left over from the season, and it was fun to really look at them and think, okay, what kind of projects can I, one, keep myself busy with through the winter months, and what kind of cool things can I make out of an $8 plant? You know what I mean? Like when you buy topiaries that are already formed, they're way more than $8. So I'm excited to see what happens with this. And it's just such a fun thing you can try with any type of plant. Anything. If you find something small that's got a really promising like bone structure, really promising branching structure, it's a fun project. So anyway, I hope that this video was fun to watch. Hope you guys are having a great week, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.